Is the shutdown causing Trump's supporters to abandon him? Oh, that's interesting. Now, the shutdown, of course, is now in its fourth week. And as it continues, his popularity among the electorate continues to fall, continues to falter. His poll numbers are becoming rather disastrous. Now, this is not anything that Trump isn't used to, of course, but he's been hovering around 40% support to 36% support, 37, so around in that range. However, this shutdown is probably one of the worst things that's happened during Trump's 2 years, and it's actually hitting him where it hurts the most, his core supporters. Now, the reason that I say that is we go to a Washington Post piece by Matt Visor. Now, this isn't just him saying, oh, yeah, I think Trump's support's falling because of X, Y, and Z. No, this is him actually going and talking to Trump supporters, Trump voters, right? And he found that because of the shutdown, some of Trump's most once enthusiastic supporters are now starting to reject him. So the story is that he went to Michigan. Now, I live in Michigan. This is my state, and I'm sad to admit that Trump won this state. But it's true. There were no Hillary signs in Michigan. There was a very anti-Hillary sentiment here. And of course, look, this is a state, let's be honest, that during the primary was an upset win for Senator Bernie Sanders. So there are a lot of progressives in the state that were more than happy to vote for Senator Sanders. But then, of course, on the other side, there were also a lot of conservatives and former Democrats or former Obama voters, as you're going to see as well, that were like, I can't vote for Hillary, so I'll vote for Donald Trump. Now, one of those people will be named later in here. But first of all, let me go to a couple of others. One of them was Jeff Doddart. He's 49 years old, and he voted for Trump in 2016. Now, he says, thanks to the shutdown, he will not be voting for Trump in 2020. He said the shutdown was both silly and destructive, and told Visor that while he was certainly for the anti-status quo in 2016, quote, he will be more status quo next time. Yeah, we've seen what shaking up the system is. I'm not sure I kind of wanted to be shook that much or in that way. Now, there's more. One man, and I love this is a quote from Washington Post, one man who was shopping at Walmart for a new pair of coveralls. He backed Trump in 2016, and for most of the past 2 years, he was very pleased. Now, he is not. He said, quote, I was doing fine with him up until this government shutdown. It's ridiculous. Well, now, wait a minute here. Why are all these Trump supporters now getting angry at him for shutting down the government? Well, for one, he's doing it because of the wall, right? That's what he says. He's like, I got to get funding for the wall, so I'm going to shut down the government. And I will be proud to shut down the government for so-called border security. But so then, look, if you're a Trump supporter and you believe border security, we got to secure the borders. We're going to stop them illegals from coming and taking jobs into welfare. Why would you be mad then if he did that? Why would you be mad at him specifically? Well, I mean, one reason could be the fact, right? So recently, news just came out that food stamp recipients have just received their February benefits early. And then that's it. If the government doesn't reopen, they're not going to get any more benefits. They got to make it stretch at least until March. So that can be very, very difficult to do. You also have people living in subsidized housing who will end up losing their place to live. So, well, that's not a good situation. And there are a lot of people who are Trump supporters who are living in government subsidized housing and actually having food stamps. And look, I don't begrudge them that. That's part of, the social safety net in America. I don't begrudge anybody that help. And there are some people that, of course, have to live on that because they don't have anything else or they're elderly. In fact, most people that are on food stamps are either elderly, disabled, or children. That's the majority of people on food stamps. So, and of course, a lot of those who are elderly are more conservative. And I don't think that's an unfair statement because it is really borne out in demographics when you look at the demographics of Trump voters. So now, you also might not know this if you're a conservative, But some government workers are also conservative and have voted for Trump. No. Well, it turns out those people, they're not getting paid, but yet they're working at the same time. So I imagine that kind of makes them mad at the man who shut down the government and who said he would be proud to shut down the government. But it's not just that here. There's more. Another man, a Navy reservist in 2016, wanted to shake up the status quo. Again, that whole same thing, that really shows you that Hillary Clinton was the face of the status quo, and there were a lot of people, even former Obama voters, and this independents, who were like, I'm not interested in what Hillary Clinton has to offer because it's a continuation of the establishment that has been crushing us. Now, at the same time, voting for Trump was a terrible decision because while we don't have the establishment crushing us, you have Donald Trump and private corporations that are continuing to crush us. So, yeah, we're basically getting crushed by the same people. Congratulations on your change, right? On your disruption. But at the same time, that Navy reservist says, quote, he didn't mind sending a message to the establishment, and frankly, he liked the idea of a disruption. But now he says, quote, what the F were we thinking? Hey, man, I thought you liked disrupting government. I thought you didn't need government in your life. Well, oops. Here's your disruption. Why are you so angry? You got what you wanted. Be careful what you wish for. Now, another interviewee, 45-year-old Jeremiah Wilburn, he said he voted for President Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012, but favored Trump over Hillary Clinton. Now, he was actually fairly happy with President Trump. However, that shutdown, again, is causing Wilburn to become disenchanted. He told Visor, quote, I was doing fine with him up until this government shutdown. It's ridiculous. Now, you're going to love the reason why. Because, again, a lot of the stuff that you hear from establishment newspapers, news outlets is, well, look, Trump has an unshakable core. And they will believe anything he tells them. And look, I've even said that before. But this shows how we're actually kind of wrong. He said, and this is Wilburn, you're not getting the wall built for $5 billion. And Mexico is not paying for it. We all know that. Two, meanwhile, it's starting to turn people like me away. Oh, I love that. And finally, 2016 Trump voter Erica McQueen expressed dissatisfaction when she spoke to Visor, although McQueen told him that she liked some of the things Trump had done as president. I don't know which. The shutdown was turning her against him, and she said, quote, something miraculous has to happen for me to vote for him again. Something miraculous. Well, I don't think that's going to happen. For one, Trump is not a good negotiator. And number two, we have divided government. Now we have Democrats that are in control of the House, and they're not going to let Republican priorities get by, which is great, because Republican priorities we've seen in the past 2 years. During the time that Trump had full control of the government, the GOP, what did they do? Well, they didn't address the border. If it was such an emergency, they didn't really address the border all that much. Yes, they tried to ban Muslims, but mostly the thing that they went for is tax cuts for the rich. That was their main policy achievement, is to give rich people more money. That's what they stand for. That's what they want. And now, look, if you agree with that, then you're probably either a rich person or you hope to be a rich person in the future, but are not quite there. Otherwise, you would not be in favor of the Trump tax cuts. In fact, you would be more in favor of tax increases like the ones proposed by AOC. Now, she proposed a 70% marginal tax rate on millionaires. Anyone making over $10 million a year would be subject to a 70% tax on any dollar over that $10 million. It turns out that is a wildly popular idea. Over 70%, interestingly enough, of the American people agree with that. A majority of Americans. And yet, the Trump tax cuts themselves are deeply unpopular, with about 30% of people in approval. So, as far as a miracle happening to get you to want to vote for Trump again, I don't see it. Though I do get worried that someone like John Bolton is going to start a war with Iran. And that might be enough to try to create some sort of sense of emergency to get people to stay with the horse. You know, I think that was a phrase that they used during the Bush. You don't change horses midstream. That's what they said when during the 2004 election between John Kerry and George W. Bush, when we were balls deep in the middle of the Iraq War. So, you know, you don't change horses midstream. And so people ended up voting for George W. Bush. So I don't think that was the only reason. Of course, John Kerry was a terrible candidate, but at the same time, kind of that mindset, I get a little worried because here you have John Bolton talking about invading Iran. So, or starting a war with Iran. And you have Israel also targeting Iranian soldiers. So that's a bit of a problem, but a conversation for a different day. But as far as Trump voters go, Visor said, so often stories exploring Trump supporters have found that no matter what, they back him. In a Michigan county he won by 12 points in 2016, I found something different. Some are peeling away from him and growing tired of his shutdown stance. So that again shows that shutting down the government, not necessarily popular, and wasn't necessarily a great thing to do. And what he's done is paint himself into a political corner to which he cannot win. When he starts losing his core support, well, you know you've lost. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.